Hi, this is Pat McDonald, your host for Vote for Vermont, where our tagline is listening beyond the sound bites. Joining me remotely is Ben Kinsley. Ben, how are you?
I'm good, Pat. How are you?
Good, excellent. Just talking about how long we've known each other. We've been doing this show,
Oh
what,
my
6
gosh, it's
years,
been a
7
while
years?
now.
Because I have one of my best
Well,
friends
I
in the
think,
studio. So, what, 7
yeah, I
years?
think, what
Oh,
years were you in the Senate?
it's in 2008, 9, and 10, 8, 9, and 10, or 9 and 10,
Yeah,
something like
so,
that,
so I
or
was
10,
I was working in the State House,
for Phil Scott.
for the lieutenant governor
That's
during
right.
that time.
And then
Yep.
we worked on campaigning for Vermont together, sort of, remotely.
Yeah. So I think we knew each other before we knew each other.
Yes, we did. And I have with me a very special guest, Marilyn Miller, my bud. We were just trying to figure out how long we've known each other.
I think it's
I
over
said
20
we
years.
could throw away the questions and
Well,
gossip about people we know in the state
we
house.
could just catch up.
Yes, we could.
Yes, we could.
Marilyn is the executive director of VEDA, and I'm going to have her talk about VEDA and also how the name changed, and you still use the initials, which I thought, how clever is that?
Well, actually, it is the Vermont Automobile Dealers Association, DBA, Vermont Vehicle and Automotive Distributors Association, because 8-10 years ago we expanded the membership base, and we thought we would reach out and try to broaden the number of members that we had, and we accomplished that, but it's still the majority of dealers.
Most people know it like me. It's hard to change this, Marilyn.
And I still it's easier to say Vermont
VEDA.
Auto Dealers Association, so
Yep.
that's what I always
So,
tell
and what
everybody.
is the new name? I have it written, Automobile Dealers, no, Vehicle and Automobile Dealers Association.
Vehicle and Vermont Automotive
You have to look
Distributors
too, I don't feel so
Association.
bad.
We tried to come up with something that matched VADA.
Yes.
But you can just call us the Vermont Auto Dealers Association, because that's who everybody knows us
Well,
as.
let's talk a little bit about the association. How many dealers do you have, or memberships now? Because you have expanded, and
Well, let's see. We have probably about 82 new car dealers, 6
Wow.
truck dealers. We have 25 used car dealers, maybe 20 associate members. Some of our members are body shops, repair facilities, without dealer license.
yeah.
And what do you call it? Part stores, that sort of thing.
And there was a while there, a lot of dealers had to close shop during the bad times a few years ago. That was bad.
Oh, you mean back when the economy was?
Yeah, right.
Oh, that was just a dreadful time.
Yep.
Yeah, that was a dreadful time, and I'm happy to say I hardly remember any of it now.
That's great.
That's probably because I'm 66. I can't remember anything anyway.
Well, that's when we knew. I think we were working together so closely.
Yeah.
And it was just tragic watching them go one after the other.
It's terrible. Yeah,
it was
terrible.
Anyway, all right, there, Mr. Ben.
Well, before we dive into the 2022 legislative session and what's going to be going on there, could you talk a little bit about some of the community involvement things that VEDA is involved in? I noticed that you've got $1 million that I think has been pledged to support secondary and post-secondary education, some associate degree programs, training programs, that sort of stuff. So maybe you can fill us in on
Sure.
what those programs look like and where that funding is going.
Back, I think it was in 1985 or even later, we did have, and we still have, a terrible shortage with finding automotive technicians. And another challenge that we've had with the trades, and I think it still continues, is guidance counselors don't necessarily steer, and parents too maybe, don't necessarily, and didn't steer their children into the trades. And so we were trying to figure out how to improve that, and we thought, well, we can't really fix the state education department. We can't go that far. So the dealers all got together, and based on the number of units sold, we worked with Bob Clark, who was the president of ETC, and we worked with him to create an associate's degree in automotive technology. We raised the money for the building, we raised the money for the equipment, and the manufacturers helped with that. We raised $100,000 in an endowment for scholarships for our students. And so that that program is a good program, and it's since has expanded to include diesel. There's a diesel program as well. after a few years with VTC, one of the challenges we had was having a feeder program where we're going to get the students. And so what we did was we hired a fellow who was out of the state of New Hampshire, brilliant man with a brilliant automotive technology instructor. He was obviously a technician, and he has worked for us, I think it might be maybe for almost 20 years. And he goes to the auto tech centers and works with the instructors to make sure their curriculum, to help them develop their curriculum. He works with continuing education for the instructors. Great. And then he also works with the VTC program at the same level. So the goal is to try to start here and bring them up to VTC. And so that's what we've been trying to do. But, all the other trades as well, as we are struggling to find students to go into the trades. So, and that's going to be even more significant.
Yeah, that's been a perennial issue.
Yeah.
Well, we're very supportive of Tech Ed, Ben and I, and this show has done a lot of shows about the importance of Tech Ed. Our businesses need them.
Yeah, it is. It really is. It's been very discouraging. It's just discouraging to find everybody steers students to every place else. And, we need people who can fix our cars. We need people who can be our plumbers and our electricians and do that.
And they make good money right out of the gate. That's what kills me.
Yes, I think that's right. Yeah. So I think we need to move in that direction. So yeah, the education has really, and ironically, we've paid this fellow. We pay him. We didn't get grant money. We didn't need grant money to do that. Although we have also worked with DMV. We developed part of our program for our students is if they want to, they can get an inspection certificate because they can learn how to do the inspection program. But yeah, part of our program, I think, has been just trying to generate more interest in automotive technology. And of course, that's all going to change with electric vehicles and the technology and the instruction for all of that. Right. And who knows, maybe that will attract a broader audience of folks, I don't know, into that trade.
Yeah, you're almost going to need like an associate's degree in electrical engineering to work on cars here.
That's right. Yeah.
Especially when there's accidents, what to do. You just can't throw water on it because it'll be bad. Mm-hmm. That I know. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you got to use special chemicals for that.
Exactly.
Oh yeah, we've also had, we've also worked with the Department of Education and the Department of Labor to, we've received grant funding, which we use to help our students buy tools.
Nice.
So yeah, we've done quite a bit of that. And through the National Association for quite a while, many years, I think we provided over the years 82 resuscitation training units to help for the schools, to help train folks within the school systems. We did it with rescue and ambulance and fire departments.
And what is that? Just resuscitation?
It's a dummy, right?
Oh, right.
That you literally train on. Of course, the training has changed a little bit, but the dummies still are effective, but they don't quite do it the same way. But we don't do those anymore because I think we haven't seen the need for it. And we haven't had any requests for it, so we haven't been doing that lately. And then probably what I think, I don't know, it's called the AutoCap program. It's the Automotive Consumer Action Program, and the point of it is to assist Vermonters who have complaints with our members. And the whole point of it is to avoid having to pay for attorneys to resolve. If you have a problem with your dealer and you're not satisfied or you don't understand something, you make your complaint to the CAP program, which is run by the AG's office. If the dealership is one of my members, and almost all the new car dealers are, and quite a few of the used car dealers, they forward the complaint to us. We send it to our dealer and we say, "Dear Mr. Dealer, here's a complaint we have. Please respond within 10 days and tell us, give us your response." We then share that. Usually the complaint gets resolved at that level. Once they know there's a complaint, they usually work with the parties and they work it out. If they don't, my big staff of myself and one other person, work to try to come up with some solution if we can, and we resolve quite a few that way. And then if we can't figure that out and the consumer's not happy, we take it before the AutoCap panel, which is the same number of dealers and consumers who sit on the panel. And they come in, both sides come in and present their case, and the panel makes a recommendation based on what they've heard, and then we notify the parties. So it works pretty well. Actually, we started that program, and around the same time we worked with the legislature to create the new car lemon law. And we did that because, I mean, I will just say it, you know, the dealers repair their customers' cars, and back in the day, they would see similar complaints with certain makes and models that were consistently the same kinds of problems. And so we actually helped to write and make it work well, the new car lemon law, so that people who buy a new car, after 3 chances to try to fix it, they can get a new vehicle if the manufacturer doesn't make it right. And that law has been incredibly helpful, and it's very successful, and very few people end up having to go all the way through the process because the automakers now don't want to deal with it, so they are quicker now to resolve the problem. So we sort of designed the AutoCap program because we didn't have a place for you know, used car complaints and other kinds of complaints. So that's where that program came from.
Yeah, and things that don't necessarily go to the lemon law board, because it's either the lemon law board or nothing for years.
Correct.
That's a pretty narrow definition, I think, in order to go before the lemon law.
That's right.
So this is fairly open. You have a complaint, you talk about it.
It does seem like manufacturers are much more on top of it than they used to be, especially with new model vehicles. Like it's a new model they're rolling out. I've had friends that's happened to, where they, you know, buy a first model year of a new vehicle, and you know, and there's a problem with the transmission or whatever, and they'll just give you a new car because they don't want to go through the hassle of fixing it.
Well, you know, it's interesting too with you know, some people have said, well, isn't it kind of contrary that the AG's office would coordinate with you and send you complaints? And in fact, if you think about it, automobile dealers are some of the most competitive folks I know in terms of the industry. And on the AutoCap panel, I can tell you over all the years of doing it that dealers generally are much harder on other dealers than a lot of times than the consumers are, because they all are competing, and so it's a model that has really worked. It's worked really well.
I could see that. Yeah, because you don't see that direct competition quite as often, you know, in other areas like, you know, lower priced retail.
Right.
You know, where when you're buying a vehicle, it's very price sensitive, right? In most cases. And so you're going to shop around for the best deal, and you're willing to drive, you know, halfway across the state or even to a different state to try to,
don't
to
say
save.
that. No, we
don't. Sorry.
No crossing lines.
Don't drive to another state.
No.
So listen, I wanted to change it a little bit because I've seen you, and we've talked about all the work you do for your members on insurance and wellness. Marilyn runs her own insurance program for all of these folks, and the state loves her, I think.
Yeah, we actually, since I started there, we've had a health insurance trust, and we offer health, life, dental, disability, and we, over different periods of time, because legislation changes and federal law changes, can you say Obamacare?
Yeah, right.
You know, those kinds of changes affect what you can do and what your program can look like. And so we've had to change our structure over the years. And but I will say that I think our members hold our program up
for sure
as one of the most important programs, because it covers, you know, we provide their employees with benefits they really need. So
I've only heard awesome things from your members about what you do from an insurance perspective for them, and the wellness program.
It's really difficult. It's been very difficult to maintain the health insurance program, and I hope we're going to be able to do it. You know, after I'm gone in 6 months, but I hope we'll be able to do it in the future. It's getting harder and harder to do because in cost-wise, I just don't see, I haven't seen anyone with any ability to effectively control these ever expanding medical costs. It's
We've
really
discussed
frightening.
that on this show as
Just
well.
frightening.
Yeah, it is.
So,
It
yeah,
is.
that's
So I don't know, you just mentioned, I was going to mention a little bit later in the show, but you're leaving after how many years?
40.
40.
August 2nd, it'll be 40 years.
And running her own healthcare, let me know who they're going to find to replace you, Marilyn.
Oh, it's been
can't
I gotta
imagine
say,
it.
been the greatest
Yeah.
job
Well, you've got
ever.
great members,
ever.
seriously.
Oh, they are the best. I mean, when I had decided I was going to be a stay-home mom, and after 3 months of having a new baby, and my greatest excitement was pushing the carriage down to the mailbox. One of our closest friends was over for dinner, and I said to him, I said, Dick, I don't know what's the matter with me. I should be the happiest person in the world. But I said, I'm getting migraine headaches. And he said, Marilyn, you need to go back to work. And I was like, oh my gosh, how did I not know this? So a friend of mine recommended me to the guy who was the retired executive director of the association, and he called me up and he said, hey, this is John K. Butler, executive director, and I'm about to hire somebody else, but I ran into a friend of yours, and she said that I'm looking for somebody, and she said you should meet this person because she's really great and you'd like to have her work for you. So I said, well, I'd like to interview, but I have my son and I don't have a baby to say, oh, just bring the kid in a backpack. I don't care. So I strapped my son on the back and went into the interview, and he said, oh, I'm 72 years old. How do you feel working about an old guy like me? And I said, well, if it doesn't bother you, it doesn't bother me. Been the best job ever.
That is true.
It's like, I just try to tell young people, you may think you know what you want to do. You may think you have a goal. This was one of those, stumbled into it to just do something part-time, and it has been the job of a lifetime. Yeah. I love this job. I love the people I work for. I've been able to be a baseball assistant coach, and I've been able to take my kids, between the two of them, they play like 50 million different instruments, and these have been the best people to work. It's been a great job. Never get bored, and they are always supportive. So yeah, it's been a great job working here.
And you're up in the legislature?
That's my least favorite part of the job.
And the transportation House and Senate.
Yeah, we do have a paid lobbyist, and she's great. She's just wonderful. But that gives me the most anxiety.
But
although
you do great up there, and they have a lot of respect for you.
Oh,
so Marilyn's coming, and that's the end of that deal.
And I'm so close to some of the folks over the years that I really admire and respect, and so I'm going to miss. I will admit to having a very difficult time. I've tried to resign. I've tried to retire twice, and each time they said, "Well, just do it for another year."
40 years, though, Marilyn.
I finally realized, okay, Marilyn, snap out of it. You'll be able to cope with being at home. You don't have to.
You have grandbabies now. You can put in the carriage. Don't get us started. There goes the show.
Oh my gosh, brand new one. My son turned 40 this year, and I'm happy to say he gave me another grandson, and oh man, I'm on top of the world. I have a 9-year-old girl, a 5-year-old boy, and a newborn boy, and oh, it's just marvelous.
Yeah, you can tell from your postings. Anyway, sorry, Ben, go ahead.
Sorry,
take it away.
Ben.
We have digressed.
No, hey,
you
this
have
is-
your friends on.
So,
Exactly. No, I think, that's awesome because a lot of people don't find that job or take a long time to find that job. And it sounds like
It was just
you
dumb
spend
luck.
a lot of time in your dream job, which is awesome.
Yeah, dumb luck. I forgot to mention my workers' comp program. We do have a workers' comp program. And the best part about that is that if you're in our program, once a year we have a fellow go into your dealership, and he does all of the safety training. He keeps you up to date on what the VOSHA regulations and the rules are. He checks to make sure you're current with those. And he also does some environmental training as well, and the dealers get that as part of the program. It doesn't cost them anything.
That's excellent.
So yeah, that's a great program too. Members really like that program. So
That's awesome.
Yeah.
One thing we should talk about is the economic impact of the franchised dealerships on the Vermont economy, like what the contribution of payroll taxes, state and local taxes, all of that stuff. And then of course, charitable donations. Auto dealers are often
Very generous.
large donors to charities, local charities.
Sure.
What have you been able to quantify that at all?
Well, I can quantify that. I wrote these things down today so I
Please
could
read
remember to
away.
tell you. So of the 77 new car and 11 new truck dealerships, they employ close to 10,000 Vermonters with a $200 million payroll, annual sales at close to $3 billion, and they pay $154 million in state sales tax. When it comes to their individual charitable things, that's something that I've had the hardest time, because I send this out and I say, okay, you guys, tell me all the stuff you do. And they're just dreadful at getting back to me about it. Because I will say it's probably because they all do so many. I mean, we know they do it. There's a program called, there was a young woman named Stephanie Schaefer whose family went to the Bahamas on a trip, and the engine blew up and two of her legs had to be amputated. And
Oh my God.
the North Country Chevy dealers got together, worked with Mobility Works, another organization, and provided her with a van that was
Wow.
retrofitted for her. And the reason they do that is, one of the things that we always say about cars is mobility and freedom and independence are the most important things you can have. And when you are a double amputee,
Right.
you have to have the abilities. And so the dealers got together and did that. So that was a great program.
Yep.
I have dealers who give away a new car every year to the highest qualifying student. I mean, they all are sponsoring sports and sponsoring things at schools and providing vehicles, and they do so many things. And if I can, I'm going to try to get something in place before I leave in 6 months to be able to quantify all of the things that they do.
They probably do it low key and don't want the attention, knowing that gang.
That's part of it. And
Yeah.
so there are just so many things. I mean, all you have to do, anytime you look in the news, they're doing something. So, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's always the front page of the newspaper, right? It's like every someone's doing something, and
one thing we did probably,
apparently they don't want to brag about it too much.
That's who they are.
well,
I
something
think.
we did. That was probably 20 years ago. It was right after the Good News Garage started.
Oh, right, with Hal
And
Colson.
we put something together called the Good Karma Program. And what we did was, I think there were 28 people that we provided vehicles to. It didn't cost them a cent, and the dealers provided the vehicle. This was all around the state. And the dealers provided the vehicles, they paid the taxes, they paid the fees and whatever. But one of the things we didn't like being in the, there had to be someone else to qualify who was eligible for the program, and that was a bit of a disappointment, the way it was done, and so we didn't continue the program. It was also very administrative, time intensive, and it's myself and one other person, so we have to kind of limit all the things we can do.
I remember that program. Is the Good News Garage still?
Yeah.
They're still around.
Because Hal Colson used to run it, and he's now in the legislature.
They're still around, and they now are different. They provide, they look for vehicles, and then they have repair facilities that they work with to do some work and that sort. It's a different model than it was originally.
Yeah, because that was a great model at it on its day. So anyway, so I want to switch to the legislature. Because actually we did a show, Ben and I, we do this summer show talking about legislation, and we did a whole show on, I think it was S47, where we were talking about warranties and talking about emissions vehicle manufacturers and that sort of stuff, because I found it fascinating. Could you talk a little bit about that, Bill? Because everything that we're going to talk about for the remainder of the show impacts us.
Oh, yes.
Those who are watching us right now, it's all about our vehicles.
Correct. So, and of course, the Climate Action Committee, Task Force, they came out with their, I think it was yesterday they came out with their new report.
I didn't see that.
Because it was in draft form, and I think they finalized it yesterday or the day before. And it sets all the parameters. It's for heating and it's for transportation. And I think they will do more on transportation, but it sort of sets the benchmarks for what percentages of vehicles will have to be EVs. And I put this together because I want to give you a sense. In Vermont, we probably sell 35 to 40,000 new cars a year, right? And so if the parameters in the new law says that, I think it says after 2035, they don't want, you won't be able to buy, I think this is right, internal combustion engine vehicles.
Excellent.
And they are providing, and I will say the state they've tried to put their money where their mouth is. They've put a lot of money in for incentives and rebates for people to buy electric vehicles. And I've always said, people are going to buy a vehicle based on its reliability, its safety, its affordability, and the infrastructure that's in place to take care of the vehicle. And I remember saying that back in the day when we were lobbying about CFCs and air conditioners. But it's the same thing today. Those same 4 things qualify, and those are the things that are important to people.
Okay.
And electric vehicle technology, it is amazing. It's just taken off. Now, it took a long time to get the domestic automakers, to get everybody on board, and they've been dragged along kicking and screaming because they haven't wanted, I think they didn't think the technology was advanced enough. And in some ways, I can't say that I disagree with them totally, because in a state like Vermont, cold weather still does affect EVs. And so there are certain things that make it more challenging for Vermont to meet these sales targets for EVs than, California or warmer climates where it's easier. So, I will say Vermont's done a great job. They've really built out the infrastructure for such a small state pretty fast. And, I give props to the organizations that have been promoting that, because we're going to have a lot of charging stations if everybody's going to be driving an electric vehicle.
These things.
And then you have the utilities involved, and the utilities have figured out that, how to help you purchase a unit that you can charge your cars at home. The affordability issue is getting better and better and better, and between the incentives and the rebates, I think the process is really coming along, and I think I feel better about it than I did probably 5 years ago.
Have you guys weighed in on how to tax these things?
We have not, because it's so interesting. A year ago, the whole, what I thought everybody would be looking at was the vehicle miles traveled tax, right? Now, with the price of gas going up, so I doubt people are going to want to raise the gas tax right now, based on what it costs to buy gas. So we haven't weighed in on that. Because really, and I always say that, our role is to provide our customers with vehicles that are safe, affordable, reliable, and have an infrastructure in place to support them.
So leave the taxing to the legislature?
Yeah, and one thing I will also add about the legislature that I think is, it's really been interesting, because I've worked with organizations in the last few years that I would never have imagined I would have worked with before, all because of this new technology that's coming. And so there are organizations like Drive Electric Vermont, Efficiency Vermont, and then all of the new programs that have come about as a result of trying to provide low-income folks with the ability to take advantage of some of these technologies, and even if they can't afford an electric vehicle or a used electric vehicle, to be able to get a later model gas vehicle. And so there's programs called Replace Your Ride and Mileage Smart that are just fabulous. And administratively, we've been working with them. They've been working with us. I love Drive Electric Vermont. There's a man who works for them named Dave Roberts. You should have him on your show.
I was going to write that down.
This guy, he is like the electric car guru. I really,
you'd like
really
that discussion.
Respect him a lot. He's wonderful. And, there's an umbrella of VEIC, and then Efficiency Vermont, and then Drive Electric Vermont. And they are going to be working, we've been working with Efficiency Vermont in terms of trying to promote education, training, how to sell it,
Right.
how to promote, the encouragement of charging stations and that sort of thing.
We
So-
saw in this bill, and we had a big discussion about
Yeah.
it. And you led it about the electric cars and franchising and who gets to sell cars and how that's a big deal.
Well, that's what this main bill was about, and
Yeah.
that's okay. So that was a really big lift for my members, because all across the country you have franchise laws, and franchise laws have been in place for 50 plus years, more than that. And the reason franchise laws are in place is because manufacturers, they build the cars, but their expertise is in manufacturing. And it started way back with Ford, and he ended up having dealers all around the country, and that was the model that was
Right.
in place. Well, then, as challenges came about and sales would drop, the manufacturers would just sort of drop their dealers, and dealers who have to make really large investments. I mean, you
For
can
sure.
imagine the amount of money you have to spend on your facilities. And now even more, manufacturers determine what size your facility is, what signs you have, right down to the bathroom tile and the floor tiles. And if you walk into a dealership, you should understand that everything in that store is determined by whichever automaker
Right.
is the franchise store. And so it's an interesting relationship between dealers and manufacturers. And one of the challenges for us has been that Tesla, Elon Musk, who is a genius and has made, you didn't hear this from me, but Teslas are beautiful cars. And he doesn't like the dealer model, the dealer franchise model. And of course, early on, he hasn't had to have a dealer franchise model. I would argue that when he has sold several hundreds of thousands of Teslas all around the country, he's going to need to get them serviced, and he's probably going to at some point adopt a dealer model. But that's for another day. So what we had was some Vermonters in the state who had bought Teslas, and because there was a provision in our franchise law that said you have to be a manufacturer can't have a repair facility in the state. And so some were interpreting that, and some people thought that meant that they couldn't really get their cars serviced. And so what we did was we worked with the sponsor of the bill and tried to come up with what we thought was a reasonable solution, because of course the franchise law, we still believe, is the best model. And so the compromise on the bill was that if you are a vehicle manufacturer, an electric vehicle manufacturer that has no dealers, none in place, then you can apply and you can do business in the state of Vermont, but you have to get a dealer license, and you have to be licensed as a dealer, and you have to meet all the requirements that the dealers do. And one of the reasons that I think the legislature decided that was a good idea was when the concept first came up of allowing Tesla and other EV makers, Rivian, when the concept first came up, what we suggested was that a consumer study be done, because we did want to be able to demonstrate, and I think we did it effectively, what all the consumer laws that if you're a dealer in the state of Vermont, you have to meet. And those laws really protect consumers. And so when we were able to share that, I think the legislature, really considered that and thought it made sense. And so it was a compromise. So Tesla, so if you're a manufacturer that has no dealers, that never has had any dealers, an electric manufacturer, you can, but you have to get licensed and you have to. And so that
And
yeah.
I saw in the DEV, don't ask me how I ran into this, there is an opportunity for people to weigh in, because they're going to review the franchise law in 2022, next year.
Well, and they did that, and I have to say I really appreciate the legislature. I just came from a meeting with our Washington County Senator on this, and I was so impressed with the transportation committees and the commerce committees, because what we said was we haven't updated our franchise law in 22 years.
Right.
And one of the reasons that we don't take the franchise law to the state and try to upgrade it is because the automakers have a lot more resources to hire lobbyists, and they have a lot more financial resources to challenge our law and try to make it more difficult.
Right.
So what we asked of the committee and what they said to us, when they were asking about the Tesla thing, and they said, we really feel like we have to address what Vermonters who have bought these vehicles have, and they should be able to get them fixed. And they said, but listen, if you have franchise issues that you would like us to work on, come back to us and present them to us, and we'll help with those. And so that's what's coming back this year. And those are the kind of issues, that's the bill that will come back this year.
But they're asking the public for comments, and you can do it right on the DMV website, which I thought, I've never seen that before, where they're really reaching out and saying, do you have any comments?
I think they also, it's not only for just the public, but also for the manufacturers to weigh in.
Oh, I'm sure.
So really, anybody who is interested in that particular issue. So the deadline was December 1st. I am happy to report I met the deadline.
There you go.
It was not easy, but it's done. So we're now, working on, trying to work with some key legislators to make sure they understand what the issues are that are in the bill, because we'd like to get to some of them before the session starts. And I have a feeling we're going to be doing a lot of
Well, that's what I'm sure.
again.
Somebody's compiling all the. I have to tell you something. On the radio today, we went into Burlington, and they were talking about Teslas and electric vehicles, that they are so quiet that it's become a problem for people with no hearing, hearing deficincies. And some of them have, if you press a button, you get a noise that makes the noise so that the hearing impaired has a heads up that there's a car heading towards them. It's effective to a certain degree, but it's got to be louder, bigger,
can you
better.
imagine, being the old ladies that we are, we can't see, we can't hear.
Nice friend, right?
We can't see, we can't hear, and now, even if we could hear, you can't hear those.
You can't hear them because they're so
We're going to
quiet.
get run over at dusk.
Well, it's become a big deal. They were talking about it on the radio, and I thought, oh my God.
So Toyota had to deal with this probably about 10 years ago.
Oh, really?
Because they had the same problem with like Priuses, like the plug-in hybrids that are in battery only mode when you're driving slow, like in parking lots.
Yeah.
The gas engine's not running. It's just the electric motor. And they were having that problem of like people didn't hear them coming because the gas engine's not running. So Toyota kind of pioneered that issue of like you play it has an external speaker that it plays like a whirring noise to kind of alert people.
You just press a button and it makes noise. That's what they were talking about, but I guess it wasn't loud enough, so they're going back to the drawing board. But I didn't think about parking lots because I'm trying to think, when do you not look if a car's around? But a parking lot is a perfect example of when you might not look over your shoulder because you're just.
And I would say on the EV thing too that EVs are going to explode. It's coming. It's going. It's going to be huge. Every auto manufacturer is betting on it now. You see, the number one selling electric vehicle in the country is the Ford Mustang Mach-E. So it's already.
One of my senators just bought one of those, and I didn't get the chance to go look at it, but I'm going to.
Oh, nice.
And sales of the Mach-E have actually passed the regular Mustang now.
Yeah. Well, I was going to tell you because I knew you were going to ask me this question, or one of you were going to ask that. But it's. I just think even in the last year, I was impressed to see that let's see, the EV market. So year to date, hybrids are up from 4.5 to 7.6%. Pure electric is up 1.5 to 2.8, and plug-in hybrids are up 1.2 to 2.4. And you know what? That may not seem like a lot, but what we're seeing is there's more and more broad support for them.
Right.
People, I think, are starting to look at them and say, well, and they're good looking. I mean, there's somebody around here who's driving around in a white Tesla, and I look at it and I think, who is that? I keep trying to figure it out. They are nice looking cars. I will admit to kind of being a boo-boo on Tesla because Elon Musk really sort of bashed franchise dealers, and I thought he made up a lot of stories about them. But I will say my husband and I were in California a couple of years ago, and we were driving around, and I kept seeing all these cars that I've never seen before, and it wasn't labeled. And I finally, my husband and I were in a cab, and I said, "What is that car? It is amazing." And he goes, You don't want to know what that car is, man. It's a Tesla. So,
Every time one passes me, Bruce goes, "There's a Tesla." We count Teslas
Yeah.
on our way to Maine.
yeah.
Something
yeah.
to do.
They're beautiful
Well,
cars. But
they're
we have a
beautiful
lot of
cars.
cars coming out that are going to compete and do just as well.
There are plenty of cars coming out that traditional auto manufacturers are
And they're cheaper.
going to be competitive
Yeah, they're cheaper.
and cheaper.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's going to be interesting, and the cost is going to come down, as the battery technology gets better, the process for
Right.
manufacturing the batteries gets cheaper. Those costs are going to come down. They're going to start out competing internal combustion engines within the next couple of years.
Exactly. My timing is off because I bought a RAV4 probably a year and a half, 2 years ago. And I don't put a lot of miles on my car. And so I did look at the hybrid as well. I looked at them both. And I decided because I just don't drive enough. I drive 2.7 miles to work every day. That's the only place I drive, right? So I thought, okay, well, it wouldn't have made sense for me at the time to buy the hybrid because it was extra money. And now I'm thinking, well, wouldn't you know gas prices would go up right
for
after.
sure.
So, yeah, I thought, well, maybe I should see if I can
Yep.
get a rebate and trade it in.
Well, you got a lot to pick from your members.
Well,
That's
I
a
do.
tough choice for you. You put a little pressure on. So we've been talking about S47. Anything else in there that we should highlight
Oh,
before I move on here?
Well, pretty
we
much just
they talked about the supply equipment. There's incentive programs.
Oh,
and
it really is.
This bill goes on forever.
It does, and essentially what they were trying to do was figure out the funding for the infrastructure,
Right.
for the training, for marketing, and really education for the public. Because one of the biggest drawbacks for people embracing and accepting electric vehicles, I think, is a lot of people don't know about them, and they don't know about the technology. And if they do, they still think it's the technology of 5 years ago.
Well, I must say the thing that keeps in my mind, because I don't know, is when you go to plug in, sometimes what I hear, it takes a while. So, I mean, you have to plan in your trip an hour or two for plugging in.
And that's what,
that bothers me.
And again, I think that's why I think you said it best. As the technology improves,
yeah.
the battery technology
Yeah.
improves, you're going to see more people line up. But in states like Vermont, where we have to have our cars, I mean,
Yes, we do.
I will say it really frustrates me that I feel like people don't appreciate automobiles. And I have said to my husband more than once, I just wish just once, God would say, you know what, we're going to teach those people about cars, and flip a switch on one day and nobody's car would start.
Great.
Nobody's.
They come to your house
Because
now.
because you know what?
Just turn all the cars off.
I know the environmental and all of that, but cars are important, and cars have provided us all
sure.
with the ability and the freedom and the
Freedom.
mobility to do things
Yep.
and
'Cause
be independent.
I don't know if you feel this way. If my car is busted and I have to stay home, drive, not that I need to go anywhere, but I just want to know I can.
Right.
That it's
That's
out
right.
there and it's working.
Yeah, it's
know,
true. It's
so-
true.
That's what you get for driving a Chevy.
What?
Wait, I'm showing this to Bruce. You'll be in big trouble. There we go. So the next bill we wanted to talk about, I love all these miscellaneous bills.
Well, and I'm going to tell you,
them.
a lot of those are just
just
sort of, you know this,
technical-
you
yeah,
did this
technical
long
changes,
enough,
yeah.
but DMV miscellaneous, it's all
Yeah.
like little technical changes, but nothing of super great
No,
significance.
the one that I love, though, is at H439, where I didn't know if you had a chance to weigh in, that they've provided $24.5 million to complete the first phase, not like it's ever been done before, of the DMV IT system. And do
Thank
they?
you.
Well,
Thank
do they ask you to weigh in and say what works, what doesn't, or do you think they will? Because they should.
I think you would know this, but NIMVDIS, which is the National Association of the folks who are administrators
right.
of motor vehicle departments, they all get together quite regularly, and they all share notes and that sort of thing. And I'd say Vermont has been such a dinosaur in terms of technology
Right.
that when that finally does happen, it's going to make such a huge difference
Yeah.
in transaction and timing, in how much longer it takes to get a deal done, to get the title back, odometers,
Oh,
because
yes.
because the whole odometer statements and the way they have to have a hand signature. You can't use what do you call those
Those
online?
stylus things, yeah, those
Those
electronic.
electronic. You can't use
Yeah.
so all that will once we're all on board with that, it's going to make a
Yeah,
huge
that'll be
difference
great.
and a big change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to
'Cause
be
I saw that's
huge.
a lot of money. It should be able to do something. I just hope they pick the right vendor.
Oh,
Because
I
I
would
think
hope
we've
so
done
too.
this once or twice before.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and
yeah.
they're calling this the first phase, so
Well,
I thought we did that, but I guess I'm wrong.
well, didn't,
Well,
didn't we
it's
do
not
it
always
once
the
and it
vendor.
didn't
Yes, we
work?
did
Really,
now. Yes, we
the-
did.
Once or
the
twice.
biggest problem with those large, IT projects in state government is not so much the vendors, it's the project managers.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't get me started.
Are the ones that
We don't do
they have
big
too much
bang.
turnover.
We don't do big bang IT projects well in this state. I don't know what the deal is, but we don't do it well because.
No, it's because we don't have.
No, I'm sorry. We don't change the system up front and then then look at the IT. We just duplicate an ineffective system.
And do
Just
we have
goes
engineers?
faster.
Do we
It's
have
not
the
better.
engineers? Like even if we did have it, do we have enough people with those
No,
skills?
nor can we pay
here?
for them in state government.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Well, I don't know. If you go to dealer.com, I'm sure they could probably
Oh,
build you
don't
something.
you
that
love
would
them?
work.
Yes, yes. Dealer.com could do it. But nobody takes the time to fix the system that they have, that they want to change electronically. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you're just making an inefficient system faster. What good does that do?
Well, one of the problems
Right.
is the technology now just is so fast and
Yeah.
things change so fast that you say, there's still this part of me, and I probably because I grew up in the 70s when it was a gas shortage and all of that, but
Standing in
I will
line.
say this, I don't feel really comfortable about electricity anything because I remember electric costs were out of control, and I remember that the cost of gasoline was out of control, and I keep thinking to myself, so if everybody's driving an electric car and we are in late July in Vermont and everyone has their air conditioners going, where is this power going to come from? Because I happen to believe in nuclear energy and I think that makes the most sense and it's the cleanest, but I don't think anyone else on the planet thinks that's a good idea. Oh, well, you, okay.
Well, me, I do. We
Yeah.
have a nuclear scientist on our show a lot. We have her come on, Meredith.
Oh,
coming,
yes,
Meredith,
yes.
and I love her.
Yeah.
She's
Speaking of technologies that have changed a lot in the last
Yeah, it
30,
has.
40
It
years,
has.
nuclear is one of those ones that, has changed dramatically.
It's
like the technology is
amazing.
totally different now.
And if we could just get some people to at least even look at it, talk about it, be comfortable about it, it would be so great because I really feel uneasy putting everybody's eggs in one basket
right.
and pumping all of these resources into this one technology. I just feel like we should be looking at lots
little
of things.
diversification.
Little diversity.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, not diverse. That's something
Yeah.
else.
Well,
Diversification.
we're about to run out of time here. One thing I did want to ask, or one bill I wanted to ask about was Act 40, which is regulates electric bicycles, and wondering if you guys had followed that bill at all. Because at this point, some of those e-bikes are basically motorcycles.
That's not
more
under
or
your
less.
purview, is it?
They are going to take, I'm telling you, I can't even believe all the people who have those and drive those and like those. Right now, that's not an issue for my members. They
Yeah, I
haven't
was
brought it
wondering
up,
about
but
that.
I wouldn't be surprised if some of them decide to get into that business because, you have to think about it in the summer. I mean, when I just said I drive 2.7 miles to work. Why don't I use an electric bike? Okay, really, I should use a regular old bike because I'm a lazy person.
But electric, that's cool.
But that would be cool, yeah. So I think it's a great technology, and I think it's going to, more and more people are going to
So
use it.
it was, because I read your lobbyist.
Oh, she reports on anything that affects our stuff.
So I saw that, I said, good grief, don't tell me they're overseeing electric bicycles.
I would have to assume maybe they might, because I do have motorcycle,
Right, that's true.
those kind of dealers.
Right.
And it's gone out of my mind, my
I understand.
66-year-old brain. What do you call those toys, four-wheelers, and what are those called?
With the trikes and the,
ATVs?
Yeah, well, it begins with an A. I forget, anyway.
Yeah, ATVs or UTVs.
Yeah,
like that
any
sort
of those
thing.
kinds of toys.
all you.
Yeah, a lot of them. So
yeah.
yeah.
Well, bikes will be on the road, so that's
Oh,
sort
you
of in your
bet.
bailiwick.
You betcha.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So just back to the electric cars for a minute. It must have a major impact on your on your dealers.
Oh,
They're
yeah.
going to have to learn
Oh, it
learn
is.
electricity real quick.
Oh, well, and they already are. I mean, they are, they are, and that's why I love Efficiency Vermont, Drive Electric Vermont, because they are working with us, which has been really great. I mean, I've been part of all these organizations that I never was a part of before.
Right.
And I'm learning, it's been a really good learning
That's
thing
great.
for me to embrace, and because I don't always think the same way some of those folks do. And so it's been great for me because I've learned a lot, they've learned a lot, and we
Good.
listen to each other. And I
Because
think
you
we-
gave a date. What
Oh,
date
Dave
did-
Roberts, you must have him.
No,
on.
you gave a date of when all of this is supposed to happen.
Oh, okay.
But-
Well, there's a plateau, and they set by after so many years it has to be this percentage of
Oh,
EVs,
okay.
and by so many years. But I believe it's after 2035.
Which is not that
they
far
need to
away.
be no, and that's the other thing is. It's not like people who have internal combustion engine vehicles are going to they're
Yeah,
not going to
right.
disappear.
Right.
So I would say I think we've made really good progress, but I also think we need to be calm and just try to do this in a gradual, thoughtful manner, because these things just don't change
Yeah,
overnight.
no, and there's a lot of stuff they have to work out. We just talked about the charging time and where and when do you charge.
Well, and all of your technicians, the training,
right.
the teaching, the craziness.
So the is that a like all new car sales by 2035 will have to be electric, or all the cars on the road will
No,
have to
all
be
new car sales. New car sales.
all new cars? So
so
that's
we can-
probably achievable because
Yeah.
that's probably going to be pretty close to achievable. I think that the technology will be there. The real question is like, when does the actual cars on the road turn over? Because cars these days,
They
you
last
can
forever.
12, 15 years easily, 20 years in some cases. I think my parents just got rid of a car that they've had for 20 years.
I love
Good for
young
them.
people. I love hearing you say, it's so great to
It's
hear
great.
you say, I think 2035 is doable. I think, the young people,
Well-
you guys, it's great to have, I sure hope you're right. I sure hope you're right. And I can tell you, I've never seen an industry flip over. And now they're all racing to beat each other. But I will admit, it took a long time to shake them out of their trees. And
Yeah.
you know,
course,
Well,
as
the
people are
paradigm
turning-
has shifted.
They're turning to electric, and we've got the old beater. You try to find parts for that old beater.
oh boy,
That'll be hard,
oh boy.
right?
I'm going to
Yeah,
maintain
yeah.
friendships with dealers for a long time to come.
They'll remember you, Marilyn. So listen, we
Dash
have,
some parts for me.
we have 5 minutes.
Oh,
Can you
okay.
summarize 40? What was your, when you look back, what were your major accomplishments? What sort of things you're going to look back and give you a smile and say, did good?
Well, the AutoCap program, which I am very proud of, and I totally believe in, and I was very disappointed because, there was somebody from legal aid who said that our program was worthless, and
Oh,
anyway.
Yeah,
That was
try to
that
do
was
a good
really
deed.
difficult for me because I personally consider it like my baby, my program, and
Right.
I take it very seriously, and I think it's a really important program, and I think it's worthy of support. And that happened, I think, year before last, and that was really disheartening for me because I think people, for whatever reason, were saying, "Well, the AG's office shouldn't be sending," and I'm thinking to myself, the state doesn't have the resources
No,
to
right,
do
right.
this, and so it's a free program.
Yep.
And so I'm very proud of that program. I'm really, really proud that it's been a success, and I hope it will continue. And probably the other thing is, that's getting harder, is a lot of my original guys are either gone
They're retired.
or have sold the dealerships, and I will admit to missing the old generation volunteers, investing their time. Our new day and our new world, where all the wives are working, the kid, there's all this crazy stuff. It's hard for dealer
Yeah,
owners.
because you've
to
got
be
a
able-
very solid board.
yeah, I do.
Yeah.
But it's I really like these guys, but also I had lunch with Kurt McCormick, Representative Kurt
interesting.
McCormick, about a month ago, And it was so nice because it was sort of like, things come around and they go around. He and I were at such war over CFCs. And, and then we got over that. And then he came back to the legislature.
Just let people know, Kurt was the chair
of the House
of the House
Transportation.
Transportation.
And he's now still on transportation, but
Yeah,
he
but
doesn't
not
want to
the
be the chair
chair,
because
right.
he has other things that he really wants to accomplish. But it was so wonderful to have lunch with him and sit and say, isn't it great? Because he wanted to talk to me about HFCs and about a different issue. But I thought, and he was great when he was the chair of transportation.
Yes, he did a
And
great job.
He was really fair and great to work with. And Diane Lamprier is amazing.
Well, she's good. She listens, Diane.
Yeah, that whole committee though is pretty good.
I always was very impressed with her. You talk, she listens.
Oh,
which
yeah,
is
she's
a rarity
great.
sometimes up
But
there.
I have to say, I think it's the relationships. I think I grew as a person in that job, and when you're even though I didn't like lobbying, I think I made a lot of friends, people that I liked and admired there. And Senator Mazza, who I'll get weepy thinking about him because he's been there as longer than me, I think. And he's always just sort of been such a great committee chair, and he's always done such a, obviously he loves cars. I keep telling him he has so many cars, he should have to be licensed.
I don't know if Dick's got a...
Doesn't he have a
garage.
collection of
A
Corvettes?
barn
A barn
full of Corvettes?
Oh my gosh.
And it's decorated in the black and white check
diner, red and white
like
diner
a diner.
stuff.
When my husband walked through those doors, everybody laughed because his eyeballs, it was like deer in the headlight.
Yeah.
Seeing Dick's
You
collection.
have to scrape them up off the
Oh
floor.
my God,
It's
he didn't want to
amazing.
leave.
But he has always been super fair and really great to work with, and I've always felt he's been a really great champion for me. So I'm going to miss some of those people, and
That was the Dick Pembroke. Dick Pembroke was the chair of House, he's since passed away.
And Ken Harvey.
And Ken Harvey. Yeah, there's some, so it was,
And David Kaufman up in
that's
Burlington.
going back a ways.
I
There you
know.
go.
I've been around. Listen, I was pregnant when I'd just given birth to my daughter, and 4 days later, I had to go up to the State House with a bill because we were at the deadline date. And he took one look at me and goes, "What are you doing here?" And I said, "Well, I had to get this bill introduced." He said, "Give it to me. I'll do it. Go home."
Who is that, Dick?
Dave Kaufman.
Oh, Dave.
When he was the chair.
right.
Yeah, it was fun. So I have great, I really like all those people.
nice.
They're good people, and that is, being a legislator is kind of a
great.
thankless job. So
Well, we thank you very much for your years of service and for coming on the show.
this has been fun.
Yeah, no, it's cool. I told you, it's not
I've
so
never
bad.
done this before.
Ben, thanks for joining us, and thank you all for tuning in.
Thanks, Ben.
We'll see you next week, and in the meantime, keep listening beyond the sound bites.